Hi, I'm Tiffany. Welcome to Towering TBR. I read a total of 21 books in August, and I vlogged the entire experience for the amazing readathon. I am going to try and quickly sum these up, and if you want more of my thoughts, I will have the vlogs linked in the description box below. This was a phenomenal reading month. I had several 5 stars and several 4 stars, so I have lots to recommend to you. I divide my reading into categories of illustrated stuff, fiction, and nonfiction, so feel free to skip around to find what you'd like. I read a wide variety of stuff, and if you like bookish content, make sure to like and subscribe so you can see more of my videos. I read Can't We Talk About Something More Pleasant by Ross Chast. This is a graphic memoir. The author's parents lived well into their 90s, and she documented what it was like to manage their end-of-life care. The author was really honest about how difficult this process was, not only seeing her loved ones in pain and losing parts of themselves in the form of dementia, but also the financial impact that it took. While the art style is not my favorite, I really enjoyed the story. I found it illuminating, and I would recommend. I gave this 4 stars. I also read Pilu of the Woods. This was a very cute middle grade graphic novel focused on friendship. This little girl has lost her mom and is really upset about it. She cries a lot at school and she gets bullied for crying. After an argument with her sister, she runs out in the woods and finds a tree spirit called Pilu. They talk about how lonely they are and how angry they are and really provide comfort to one another. I really enjoyed the art style, and if this author comes out with any other books, I will be glad to snap them up. The last graphic novel I'm going to talk about, I gave 5 stars. This is Bug Boys by Laura Netzger. This was so adorable. This focuses on 2 beetles, and they are the best of friends, and they go on these adventures. They befriend the spider librarian, who apparently sneaks into humans' homes, although they call them giants, to transcribe the literature for the bugs. And I remember thinking that was really adorable, and that maybe if that's why spiders were really in my house, maybe I'd allow it. There is a sequel to this, which I have just recently purchased. Has anyone read it, and is it as good as the first one? That's what I want to know. I'm going to talk about the book I enjoyed least in the month of August, and that was Whale Fall by Daniel Kraus. This was a bummer because this was one of my highly anticipated reads for the year, and it really fell flat. So a teen boy decides to go scuba diving, even though there is lots of flags up saying that it's not safe and that people should not be going in the water. He decides he's going to go scuba diving to try and find his dad's remains. His father died in the ocean, and they had a really rocky relationship, and so he views this as kind of a quest to make amends. He is near a deep canyon underwater when he spots a giant squid, and he gets very excited about this, but before he can really do anything, a whale shows up and eats the giant squid, and as the giant squid is being swallowed, it reaches out a tentacle and pulls the boy into the whale as well. The boy is then swallowed by the whale and only has an hour left on his oxygen tank to get out of this situation. He makes stupid decision after stupid decision, and
just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber.
It got quite unbelievable and got very gruesome as well, and yes, I would not recommend this book. I don't typically read romance, but for a prompt, I had to pick one up, and so I picked One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. This was definitely out of my comfort zone. We follow August. She has just recently moved to New York City, and she meets a woman on the subway that she's immediately attracted to, and she wants to get to know her better. And this woman and her are often on the same subway line and start chatting and getting to know one another. August was raised by her mother, and her mother was obsessed with trying to figure out what happened to her brother, August's uncle. And as such, August has learned some detective skills due to all of the practice that she did looking for her uncle with her mom. She decides to use these detective skills to figure out what's going on with this woman. Something is off, and she just can't put her finger on what it is. There is a time travel element, which I enjoyed, but I found that there was really quite a few coincidences, and it just didn't feel believable to me. Excluding the time travel element, obviously. If anyone knows of a great romance that doesn't rely on the miscommunication trope, let me know in the comments below, because that is a big pet peeve and one of the biggest reasons I don't read romance. I don't like it when it's unbelievable. I picked up this Japanese classic, How Do You Live, by Genzaburo Yoshino. This was of interest to me because I heard that Miyazaki was making this into his last film. This is one of his favorite Japanese children's stories, and people are having a very difficult time telling what the movie is about, and I can see why. This book is hard to talk about. It's not so much a book with a narrative structure as it's more moral lessons loosely tied together. So we're following this boy, Copper. He's 15 years old, his dad has died, and his uncle is trying to instill good lessons into him, to learn from his mistakes, and to choose to surround himself with good people, and to always give back more than he takes. Several good lessons, but it doesn't really fit a narrative structure. I still intend to watch the movie, and I hope Miyazaki has made it better. It's not very often that the movie is better than the book, but I'm hoping it will be in this case. I gave this a very generous 3 stars. I read a very short story by John Scalzi called Slow Time in Between Stars. This was about humans putting together a very advanced AI and sending it out into the deep recesses of space and looking for sentient life with enough stuff to seed a new habitable world where humans could thrive. A lot of it was pretty boring. There was some interesting philosophical discussions, but it was nothing to write home about. A sci-fi that I enjoyed a little bit better was The Deep Sky by Yumi Kitase. This was one of my highly anticipated books of the year, and unfortunately, I think I hyped it up too much in my head. We follow Asuka, and she is on this spaceship. She and another woman are going on a spacewalk to look at the outside of their spaceship because sensors are picking up something, but they need to visually go check out what it is. Something on the ship explodes, and 3 people are killed, including the captain. The acting captain decides to ask Asuka to kind of investigate who set this bomb, and trusts her because she was nearly killed. All of the crew members grew up together and went into this very intensive boarding school type prep to be on the spaceship. And so they all know each other and can't believe that anybody on the ship could have set off this bomb and killed people. Additionally, because of the bomb, the spaceship is thrown off course, and they only have a few days to figure out how to get it back on track before they basically overshoot their trajectory onto Planet X. There was some really cool AI and VR. However, as a sci-fi thriller, I found this pretty slow. And when we find out who the perpetrator is and why they set off this bomb, it felt really weak. I still enjoyed it and I would still recommend it, but go in with the appropriate amount of hype. Another book that got a lot of hype was The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. This is about Amina. She is a retired lady pirate who was known to be quite the badass. She is blackmailed into going on a rescue mission, and she gets the old gang back together with her old ship, and they go off to this really dangerous island that has pirates, it has dangerous sea creatures, and sorcerers. This was a fun ride, but this is setting up to be a trilogy, and I don't think I want any more from this world. This was satisfying, and it didn't leave you on a cliffhanger or anything, so I think it can be read as a standalone. I don't know, something about Shannon Chakraborty, like, I read her other book, The City of Brass, which is also a trilogy, and haven't felt compelled to read on in that one either. If you've read the whole Daevabad trilogy, is it worth continuing? Because I'm not sure. Speaking of pirates and islands, I picked up this middle grade, which is the second in this series, called A Sprinkle of Sorcery by Michelle Harrison. I gave this 4 stars and thought it was really fun. We follow the Wittershin sisters, there are 3 of them, and the youngest gets kidnapped. The 2 older sisters go on this adventure to bring back their sister, and along the way there are pirates, there are secret treasure maps, one-eyed witches, legends, and lore. It's just a really fun time. I'm going to continue this series as soon as it comes to the United States. I think all 4 books are out in the UK, but the 3rd one does not yet have an audiobook here, so I will have to wait a little bit to continue, but this is a really fun middle grade series, and I'm really enjoying it. I read another short story during the Face-Off weekend called My Evil Mother by Margaret Atwood. This was a very short story focused on a mother-daughter relationship during the 1950s. She is a single mother and purports herself to be a witch. She tells her child all sorts of strange things, including like that she needs to burn her hair that comes out in her hairbrush so that people can't steal it and use it to target spells on her. She really doesn't like that she doesn't have a father figure because she gets teased about it. And when she tries to ask her mom what happened to her dad or where her dad is, she says that she turned him into the garden gnome, and will even be like, oh, go ask your father, meaning the garden gnome. Their relationship is incredibly fraught because the mother's not really ever honest with the daughter. I really enjoyed the story. I think it was written very well, but I wanted more. I find that's true quite a lot with short stories. I picked up Magma by Thora Horsleifdottir. This is translated from the Icelandic by Meg Matic. And this is a story told in vignettes. We follow Lilia. She is a 20-year-old woman who is in kind of a situationship with this guy. She wants to be in a committed relationship with him, but he kind of strings her along for a while and doesn't really want to commit. This man is just red flag after red flag after red flag. Even once they are supposedly in a committed relationship, he continually cheats on her, and she blames herself for it. One example that was given was he asked her to go out to the bar, and she had already planned to go visit her family who lived a couple hours away and stuck to her plans, but decided to end her trip early to go home and surprise her man. And when she does, he's in bed with another woman. And instead of being like, oh man, this guy is dirt, I'm gonna just break up with him, she's like, oh, it's my fault. If I would have gone out to the bar, he wouldn't have felt like he had to bring someone home. This is very much like a frog in slowly boiling water. She notices these red flags, but feels like she loves him, and so she doesn't ever want to really break up with him. There are a ton of trigger warnings for this, as he abuses her in every single way possible, except physically. Yeah, I gave it 4 stars because I really, really hated the ending. I picked up Just Another Missing Person by Gillian McAllister. I picked this up because I really enjoyed her previous thriller, Wrong Place, Wrong Time. And this I'm going to give 4 stars. So we follow 3 perspectives. The first is the detective, Julia. She is supposed to investigate a missing persons case. However, she is blackmailed by an unknown person because he knows her secret, and he decides to tell her to plant evidence at the scene to basically frame a specific person. We also follow the perspective of the father of a missing girl, and we follow the perspective of the mother of the man who is being framed. I thought that this was a really thrilling ride. I did figure out some twists, but not all of them. I really liked how well paced it was, and it felt fairly realistic. If you have any recommendations for thrillers that are similar to Gillian McAllister's writing, let me know, because I've really fallen in love with the way that she writes. It's so gripping. I buddy read Julia and the Shark by Kieran Millwood Hargrave with Chattie over at The Mad Chatterer. This is a lovely middle grade story focused on Julia and her family. They move out to this tiny island so that her father can update the lighthouse and so that her mother can go out on boats to look for the elusive Greenland shark. Julia makes friends with the kids on the island, and they teach her about astronomy, and she teaches them about marine biology. Her mother gets more and more frantic to try and find this shark before they are set to go back home. And it turns out that Julia's mother is having some mental health issues. And I thought that this was a really age-appropriate way to talk about mental health. I thought it was a really good representation. The writing is also really gorgeous. I picked up Thistlefoot, and I gave it 4 stars. This is a retelling of the Baba Yaga myth. We follow siblings Belladine and Isaac. They inherit a house with chicken legs. They come up with the idea that they're going to put on a traveling puppet show like they did when they were kids. And after a year, all of the financial proceeds from the puppet show will go to Isaac, while Belladine can have the house. That does not go according to plan because of the villain, the Shadow Man. The Shadow Man feeds on fear and hate and is generally all around a terrible villain. We also get a perspective from the house, who has their own personality, and I really enjoyed the fairy tale elements. And also, it has a very important message that we need to remember history so that we don't repeat our mistakes. I read The Rook by Daniel O'Malley. This is a paranormal mystery. We focus on Miffany Thomas. She wakes up and has no memory of who she is. She reads a letter in her pocket. Somebody is out to kill her, and she has 2 options. She can either take the money and run, like that she set up back when she had her memories, or she can stick around and try and figure out who it is that is trying to kill her. She's like, I'm going to take the money and run, and goes to the bank in order to withdraw this money. However, she is accosted by 4 people in latex gloves, and she is thrashing and fighting for her life when all of a sudden all 4 people drop unconscious. She decides then that she needs to figure out who's after her and what is going on. We find out that she has superpowers. She can interfere with other people's bodies, and when she was in an extreme amount of pain or stress, she can do it involuntarily. So she works for the secret government agency and reads the notes that she's left for herself. She tries to stumble through her job, not letting on that she doesn't have her memories any longer, knowing that it is likely somebody at work who is targeting her. I do wish it had been a little bit longer because the ending just played out really quickly, and it was a little bit of whiplash. It's like, wait, can we have some more resolution time? There are 2 other books in this series. I do think that I've heard people say that just stick to the first one, that they're not worth it. But if you know, let me know down in the comments if it's worth continuing on, because this was really good and really gripping. I read a beautiful story called If Cats Disappeared from the World. I gave this 4 stars. So we focus on this protagonist. He finds out he has a brain tumor and he is going to die very soon. The devil shows up and says, "You're going to die tomorrow, but I will strike a bargain with you, and if you let me disappear something from the world, I'll give you an extra day." He's like, okay, yeah, I'll take this deal. And so the devil wipes out all cell phones. And at first he's like, okay, this isn't bad. This was worth the extra day. And he chooses to reconnect with some people from his past. However, every day the devil kind of ups the ante and starts taking away things that are much more impactful in his life. There got to be kind of a philosophizing of when something that was important to you disappears, does part of you disappear as well? It was beautiful and thought-provoking, and I really enjoyed the ending. All right, we have 3 more in the fiction category, and these were all 5 stars. I read The Girl and the Ghost by Hannah Alcoff. This is a wonderful middle grade story based on a Malaysian folktale. We follow a girl, Soraya, and her ghost, Pink. He takes care of her and is one of her steadfast companions. Unfortunately, she gets picked on a lot at school, and because her ghost has paranormal abilities, he starts fighting against the kids that are harming her. And she is really upset. She's like, no, don't use your powers to hurt these children. Like, I don't want you to do that. He is supposed to listen to her. She is his master. However, she gets picked on quite a lot, and it kind of builds and builds where he is just defensive for her, and he resumes hurting other children. And so she decides, no, we're just gonna cut ties. We're gonna go our separate ways. This is not working out. This is supposed to be for her entire lifetime. They're bonded, and he is really upset that she basically dismisses him. And so he starts hurting her. She finally tells her mom, and her mom gets a magical guru, a Paula, to try and capture the Pelicet. That's what the ghost is called, a Pelicet. And unfortunately, he is nefarious. He is a bad dude. And so Soraya, her one friend, and the Pelicet team up to try and take him down and learn more about the history of where Pink came from. The ending had kind of a reveal that I thought really bumped this up to a 5-star. I really liked the ending quite a lot, and I'm definitely going to be picking up more of her books. If you've read anything by Hannah Alkoff, where would you suggest I go next? My second 5-star of the month was The Girl with the Louding Voice by Abby Daré. This follows 14-year-old Aduni. She is living in Nigeria. Her mother has died, and her father is having a hard time making ends meet. So he basically sells her for a bride price. He marries her off at age 14 to a man with 2 other wives. The first wife is awful to Aduni. She is jealous and angry and has only been able to give her husband 1 child, a girl who is the same age as Aduni. The second wife has had 3 children, all girls, and is pregnant with the 4th. And she is desperate for this last one to be a son. And so he marries Aduni in hopes that she will be able to bear him a son as well. Something happens that splits his family up, and Aduni's living situation changes. All Aduni wants is to become educated and to be a teacher and to prove to her father that she is worthwhile. She is this incredibly strong character who keeps persevering even setback after setback. I can't believe this was a debut novel. I will definitely pick up whatever she writes next. The last fiction book that I gave 5 stars is going to be a favorite of the year. I read Chain Gang All Stars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. This is a grim dystopian where prisoners can opt into a fight to the death type program. And if they can withstand 3 years of these fatal fights, then they will be allowed to be freed and have their crimes basically forgiven. These gladiator fights have really large audiences, not only in person, but they are also televised. And this becomes kind of a national sport that people watch. We primarily follow 2 women who are in a relationship with one another. We have Loretta Thurwar. She is this incredibly strong woman who is very, very close to finishing this 3-year sentence. She's just a few weeks away, and if she can last, she will be freed. We also follow Hurricane Stax, her lover, who is really well loved by the audience. She really plays up to them and has kind of these rituals where she'll tell the person that she's about to kill that she loves them, and then after she does kill them, she will tattoo an X on her body to represent the life that she's taken. By playing up to the crowd, she can get sponsors, which can get her better weapons or video footage of the competitor she's going to fight. While this is dystopian, this is definitely a satire on modern day prisons, especially for-profit prisons. There's a lot in here about corporate sponsorship and making money off of these prisoners. In this world, they are almost treated like celebrities. However, even though this is dystopian, the author does include modern-day facts about prisons, including the effects of isolation and blasé attitudes towards sexual violence against inmates. This book horrified me, but it also helped me understand how some of these attitudes have become prevalent. This book has stayed with me. It is the first book I read in the month of August, and I still think about it quite a lot. This book is incredibly triggering, but I think it is well worth the read if you can manage it. I have heard that this author has a short story collection out called Friday Black. Has anyone read that, and is it worth it? I don't typically like short story collections, but this author was so amazing that I have to pick up whatever else he writes. The only nonfiction I'm going to be talking about is North of Normal by Sia Sunrise Person. This is her memoir of growing up in the wilderness. She was born to a teen mom and hippie grandparents who decide that they want to live off-grid, go into the middle of nowhere in Canada, and exist. And it's a really difficult childhood. Her mom is incredibly irresponsible, as are her aunts and grandparents, and she has several terrifying experiences. The adults in her area do drugs and have sex in front of her and sexualize Sia from a very young age. She eventually gets away from her toxic family by becoming a model at age 13. Her story was really frustrating for me to read because none of the adults would take responsibility for Sia. In my vlog, I compared this to Jeanette Wall's memoir, The Glass Castle, and I think if you liked that book, you would also probably like this one. Okay, so that was like a crazy month, and I'm hoping that this isn't too long. The Amazing Readathon was a ton of fun. I was on the blue team, and we got 3rd place out of 5, which is fine. But it really caused me to read probably the most I'll ever read in a month. Let me know what you read in the month of August, your best and your worst reads. And because I know this is long, if you watched to the end, please put a heart emoji and let me know if you plan to participate in any readathons yourself. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.